All right, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Zoom. Before we jump into our regularly scheduled programming, if you're willing, in the chat, go ahead and say your name, and then one of two things. You can either put where you live or where and how you first met Heidi Lube. So in the chat, your name, and then either where you live or how you first met Council President Heidi Lube. So hello, everyone. My name is Ben Bowman. I am the chair of the Tigard Tualatin School Board and a proud supporter of Heidi Lube for Tigard Mayor. And I want to officially welcome you all to this Zoom. We've got a great lineup of speakers, but if you know Heidi, you know she is very direct. She's very to the point, and we are not going to have a long-winded Zoom with lots of long lists of speakers. We're going to keep it straight to the point and hear from some great people who are supporting Heidi and why. But before I introduce the first speaker, I wanted to just make a couple points. I live in Tigard, and I think, there's a joke in politics that every election is the most important election of our lifetime. I actually think this election for Tigard Mayor is really important for several different reasons. One, because I think the direction that the city of Tigard has moved in, starting with Mayor John Cook and before him and moving into Mayor Jason Snyder, has been a really powerful direction for our community. We've become more diverse, more inclusive. We're investing in our parks, walkability. And I think it's really important that we keep making progress and moving in that direction, and that we have a candidate this time who's willing to do that. But I also think it's sort of unusual that you get a candidate for mayor who is as well suited for this position as Heidi is. And we're going to hear a little bit about that background that makes her so well experienced and well suited to be mayor later tonight. The other thing I wanted to mention before I introduce our first speaker, Tigard's been a city for a long time. There are some black and white photos of this community. Some of us knew or had the opportunity to meet Curtis Tigard before he passed away. I believe he was the grandson of the founder. So, and I think he passed away when he was in his 100. So that tells you how long the city's been around. We're talking a very long time. In the history of this city, we have never had a woman hold the office of mayor. And I think that is a bit ridiculous. And not only do we have the opportunity to make history in this election, but we have the opportunity to make someone who is truly qualified and committed to this city our leader for the next 4 years. So I'm excited for you all to hear from Heidi later in the evening, but we also have a very exciting first guest speaker that I'm excited to introduce. If you've been to any town hall, community event at all in the last year or two, you have seen Oishiki Nog at that town hall. She is incredibly present in this community. She's one of the top student leaders at Tigard High School, currently serving as the youth city councilor on Tigard City Council. And we are all very proud to have her as a leader in this community. So please join me in welcoming Tigard Youth City Councilor Oishiki Nog as our first speaker.
Thank you so much for that introduction. As Ben Bowman has said, I am the Youth City Councilor, and one of the things that really stood out to me when I first joined was how willing Council President Lube was onto welcoming me onto the council, and how open she was to showing me the ropes and teaching me about a lot of the intricacies as to how council worked. And whenever I had any questions, I always knew that I had someone to turn to. And as someone that didn't know a lot about local government before the last couple of years, I think she's an excellent role model and an excellent person to just turn to for anybody, especially youth, to have any questions towards. While talking to a lot of my peers, they have said that politics and local government in general is really intimidating. I know that it doesn't seem intimidating to a lot of people, and I know that there is a learning curve, but it's always about making that connection. And Heidi Lube has always been there in the community and always makes an effort to connect to people. And that means a lot to me and a lot to my peers, because you went to the voter registration drive, and for the first time, a lot of my peers said that they actually felt a connection with their elected leaders. And you were there for that special moment that a lot of people don't get to experience, but I'm sure that when you are elected as mayor, you will be making so many of those connections and changing so many people's civic duties. Um, I'm going to be the well, I know I talk a lot about climate change and climate policy, but you listening to youth is crucial when it comes to um, advocating for climate policy. So I think that's another huge thing that youth voters should be looking out for, is which candidate highlights the issues that we are facing the most. And I know that Heidi Lu will make sure to highlight those voices and highlight those struggles and come up with plans and policy created by the community to make sure that Tigard has a plan to solve these problems. She has always been the one to listen and organize and plan around community involvement. When we were talking about city council term limits, she was the one that advocated for community responses. And we had a fabulous and fantastic amount of people submitting testimony and submitting comments that we use to make our decisions. And I think we need elected officials that go out of their way to be that vessel of communication. And I know that Heidi Wu will be that advocate. Thank you.
All right, join me in thanking Oishiki Nag for those comments. Great job, Oishiki. All right, so for our next speaker, I mentioned that if you go to any town hall in Tigard, you're going to see Oishiki. If you go to any youth sporting events in Tigard, you're going to see John Cook. Our next speaker is a former mayor. In fact, he is, I believe, I don't know if he's, are you the only second generation mayor in his Tigard history? So John has a long history of public service in this community. It really kind of, I think, is in his blood. As a Cook Park, as all of us know, was named after his father, who had some visionary foresight as a mayor. But John, in his own right, was an incredible community volunteer. He was, Tigard first citizen long before he was actually elected mayor, and has continued, even since moving just outside of the community of Tigard, has continued to be a leader in this community. And he's also someone who knows what it takes to be an effective mayor of a city. So with that, I'm really excited that John is here to support Heidi tonight. So everyone, please give it up for former Tigard Mayor John Cook.
Thank you, Ben. I'll answer your question instead of typing it in. I met Heidi 4 years ago. She interviewed for a budget committee position. And myself and council president at the time, Snyder, were interviewing her for a position on the budget. And we were like, wow, she's really good. Not that everybody doesn't come in as, E's on here. And, I put him on the planning commission twice. So, there are people that are really good and we put them on. But at the same time, we're like, wow, she's just well-rounded, well-spoken, articulate, smart. And we're like, she'd be great on the budget committee. And then Jason said, well, what do you think? I said, well, go ahead and ask her. And he's like, hey, Heidi, do you want to be nominated for to actually get a position on the council? And she's like, well, I never thought of that. Well, I don't know. We sort of floored her on the question. Eventually she came around and decided, oh, sure, I'll put my name in and do that. But it was because of just what we saw first off. She, like Ashiki said, she has that position when you first meet her that is very welcoming. And I think that's very important that your leaders have that. Ben, you're right. The city's been around the area's been around for over 150 years, but the city's only been around for 60 years. So we've only had a mayor and city council for 60 years. And so after the November election, Heidi will be the first female mayor of Tigard. So, but that's after 60 years, you're right. But, right now we have a majority female council. So, we actually are moving in the right direction in a lot of things. And so I think looking back, we look at not just how how she gets along with people and everything, but her leadership skills. She's currently the council president. Not everybody gets that. You actually have to be nominated by your other counselors and then voted in by the other counselors. Some people think that's a pretty given who gets that, but it's not. It's actually pretty hard to get. As you know, Ben, being the chair of the school board, it's a kind of thing that just doesn't happen nonchalantly. So council president's a big deal. It takes the position of the mayor when the mayor can't be at the meeting. I mean, Mayor Snyder right now is down in Reno at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And so if there was a meeting this week, Heidi would be running it, that kind of thing. So I think what she brings is, when I left the council, by being a CPA, I was like, we really need somebody else that has that business acumen. And so by being a controller of a company, director of finance now, she deals with large budgets. And so it's one thing to be a small business owner. It's another thing to see the size of budget, the multi-million, hundreds of millions of dollars that Tigard has running through their budget. It's not just, hairdresser on Main Street kind of budget. So you really need somebody that understands all of the aspects of that, and she's done that. And I think that's really the important thing is nowadays every dollar is crucial. We have the second lowest permanent tax rate in the county for cities of any size, and so from that standpoint, citizens really want their dollars to be spent wisely. And so Heidi has always had a really good mind for that, but at the same time, she's visionary. And like myself, the answer that she said also is, the answer is never, well, that's the way it's always been. It's, why is it that way? What can be better? And how can we change that for the future? And I think that's what Heidi brings to us. And I think that's what's most important about Tigard right now is we need the visionary process, the calming effect, and the business acumen that she brings to us. And that's why we're all going to vote Heidi Lube for Tigard mayor.
Very well said. Please join me in thanking former Mayor John Cook. All right. So before I introduce the next speaker, I want to read through a list of individuals. Basically, everyone on this list is a top flight community servant. And these are all the list. This is the list of people who are already endorsing Heidi. Before we've really gotten into the campaign season, these are the folks supporting Heidi. Current mayor of Tigard, Jason Snyder, John Cook, Liz Newton, one of the most experienced counselors who really knows the city of Tigard, and I see her here tonight. The mayor of Beaverton, Tualatin, North Plains, and West Lynn, 2 state senators, our current state representative, Dacia Graber, Representative Courtney Neron, who also represents part of Tigard and has deep ties to Tigard. I see her here as well. Former Representative Margaret Doherty, who we'll hear from shortly. Tigard-Tualatin School Board member Tristan Irvin, my former colleague, Karen Emerson on the Tigard-Tualatin School Board, who I also see here. Hi, Karen. Beach Pace from the Hillsborough City Council, and Gina Roletto, her colleague as well. And then on the Tigard side, folks who serve in community leadership roles here, I think I saw Tom Murphy on here from the Town Centering Advisory Commission, and Carl Fisher from the Transportation Advisory Board. And there's other names that I didn't even list out, but I wanted to give a sense for folks of how broad of community support that Heidi has already earned. And I expect that list is going to grow in the months to come as we really ramp up campaigning over the summer months. But our next speaker is the main attraction, Tigard City Council President Heidi Lube. I'm glad that former Mayor Cook mentioned your professional experience, because folks sometimes who meet Heidi in the city council role might not know that in her professional role, she's held the title of controller, accountant, head of finance for big corporations, which is a critical part of the role of a city. But she's also a triathlete, she's a mom, she's a friend. In fact, I think, what is Elizabeth down for the nap at now, but I saw Brian was on, she's on the side, but she's someone who, what really inspires me about Heidi is you'll see her on an East Washington County Dems meeting or a Tigard City Council meeting, and she's a mom. at all times and isn't afraid to continue to be involved and continue to be an active mom while she's involved. And it makes me feel like I could be a parent someday while I'm taking on these public service roles. And I find her to be an incredible friend and an inspirational role model. So please join me in welcoming our person of the hour, Heidi Lube.
Thank you, Ben. I love seeing all the kiddos here. I was once asked what was my favorite thing about Zoom meetings, and I said the babies and the dogs. So please keep them coming. Hi, my name is Heidi Lube. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm running for the mayor of Tigard. Since I've announced, the most common question I hear is, why do you want to be mayor? The short answer is that I love Tigard. The longer answer is the kind of community we live in matters. I'm not one to stand on the side, and it's important for me, if I have the ability, I'll dig in and help bring the change that I want to see. Every election matters, and the leader of our community matters. I care deeply about the kind of community that I live in, where my daughter grows up, and where you live and call home. I want everyone to feel welcome in Tigard and that they're a part of our community. I want everyone to achieve their full potential. I've accepted the call to step up and serve. I've had the honor of serving on the Tigard City Council since 2019, and I've been serving as council president since 2021. I'm involved in several of our city boards and commissions. I also chair the League of Oregon Cities General Policy Committee, where I'm able to advocate for change on the state level that impacts our city. In the time that I've been on council, we've navigated the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, passed a public safety levy and created the Public Safety Advisory Board, and made diversity, equity, and inclusion work a priority, just to name a few things. In my professional life, I'm head of finance at Thesis Agency. I love numbers, and I love working with non-numbers people to use data to inform and guide decisions. I bring my business experience with big budgets to the city of Tigard, and I'm able to view things through a community perspective while also being fiscally responsible. I'm a triathlon coach where I'm able to be creative and meet each athlete where they are and help guide them through hard work to finish lines. Personally, I'm married to my husband, Brian, who's here today. We have a daughter, Elizabeth, who was bouncing to the music earlier. And honestly, I think she's campaigning on the side to be Tigard's first official toddler greeter. She's never met a human or a dog she doesn't want to wave to. We also have 2 dogs who love to bark at the most inconvenient time, but we love them fiercely anyway. When you're voting for someone, you're putting your faith in them to be a good steward. While we don't know exactly what's in store for the next 4 years, and I'll tell you about some of my plans, I want you to know that I'm an honest person. What you see is what you get, and my integrity guides my decision-making. I bring the community together, and I want to hear many perspectives and ideas before making a decision. When I take office, I'll be representing all of Tigard, not just those who vote for me, and I take that responsibility seriously. As Tigard's mayor, I will continue putting the Tigard community first. We need to be future-minded while also being responsible stewards of our community's funds. We need to provide our basic services well, while balancing the need to be adaptable enough to respond to any event that arises. Tigard needs to continue to be a place of honesty and accountability. We should be accessible to everyone and regularly provide updates on how the city is spending your dollars. We should know what services that you value and ensure those services are meeting your expectations. We're busy moving forward in Tigard as a regional leader. We allowed middle housing in our code before the legislature mandated it, and our early COVID response of leveraging city funds with community development financial institutions became a model to help businesses across the region. We are our own city while we are also part of the region around us. I've worked hard over the last 3.5 years to build those regional relationships. And as Ben talked about, my endorsement list shows that I'm ready to hit the ground running and work with other regional leaders to move us forward. Tigard's strategic plan is to be an equitable community that's walkable, healthy, and accessible for everyone. That means we continue to work on funding so we have adequate sidewalks for human mobility. We should prioritize parks in underserved areas, and we need to do our part with the climate crisis and execute our community resiliency plan. We can't be healthy when the earth is literally burning around us. We have an incredible business community in Tigard and the best chamber of commerce in the state. I regularly attend Tigard Chamber of Commerce events and maintain relationships with local businesses. We need to continue to support these businesses coming out of COVID and continue to break down barriers to start businesses in Tigard. I'm so excited for our city food cart incubators. We're a family that likes to eat, and I love what we're doing at the library to help businesses get off the ground. All of this can happen when we work together. I look forward to earning your vote this November, and your support means the world to me, but I also need your help. Please help in any way that works for you, whether that's making a donation, knocking on doors, making phone calls, hosting a house party, or helping your neighbors register to vote. I also want to thank all of you for taking time out of your Sunday to show your support for my campaign. I've had an overwhelming response of support and excitement, and I really want to thank School Board Chair and HD 25 candidate Ben Bowman for hosting, Youth Counselor Nog and former Mayor John Cook for their kind words, and also former Representative Margaret Doherty, who you're about to hear from. I'm excited to take on this responsibility and adventure to be the next mayor of Tigard. Thank you for being here.
All right, everybody, give it up for Heidi Lube, the next mayor of Tigard. So before I introduce our last speaker, I want to invite everyone to head to the chat and tell us why you're supporting Heidi Lube. It might be an experience that you've had with her personally. It might be an accomplishment she's had on city council. It could be part of her vision for the future of the city, or a characteristic or value that you've seen her exhibit. But please feel free to share in the chat what brought you here tonight and why you're proud to be supporting Heidi. So while you're drafting that out in the chat, I am excited, very excited to introduce our final speaker for the evening, because she is someone not only who I know very well, but who Margaret could probably hear my voice right now, even if I was on mute, because she lives right across the way from me. Margaret Doherty was a state legislator representing the city of Tigard in Salem for over 10 years. And I had the honor of working for her. She was my first job in the state legislature. I learned a great deal from her on a lot of different levels about politics, about life, etc. But a couple things I wanted to highlight for listeners is Margaret was like the #1 champion of providing food for kids in the state of Oregon. When it comes to child nutrition, Margaret is second to none in her accomplishments in feeding hungry kids in this state, which is something that I was really proud to support her on. And she's also someone who's known as Mrs. Tigard. I mean, if you went to the chamber events or a school event or a community event, Margaret was always there because she really cares about this community. And that's why I think people really value her endorsement, and they look at who is she supporting, because it's probably someone who cares a lot about Tigard. So former Representative Doherty, thank you for being here, and I will hand it over to you to take us home.
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, Ben also forgot to say that I also fed them. I brought them food too. So anyway, but thank you all very much for taking your time this afternoon for the campaign kickoff of Heidi. And I'm just very, very excited to be here. I was just going to say, when Ben was talking about how I was always at everything, well, actually, John is Mr. Tigard, because we would always run into each other at events, no matter what they were. And then Mr. Murphy was usually behind. So anyway, we're just glad that you're all here. But the one thing that I am so proud of with Tigard is when I first moved here 30 years ago, and actually I grew up in Southwest Portland. So we used to come to the Joy Theater. That was the closest movie theater to our house. And so in the 60s, we used to go to to the Joy Theater. In fact, I was kicked out of there during West Side Story. I was trying to ease the tension when Tony was dying. And so they used to have popcorn in bags. And so I popped a popcorn bag and they kicked me out. And a couple of months ago, I went and saw Licorice Pizza there, and I sat in the seat that I was kicked out of when I was like 12. So anyway, we've got long ties. But the one thing when I first came into Tigard is that we were kind of just a community like this, and we weren't working with other municipalities and other areas in the region, and we weren't listening. I felt that we weren't listening to the community, and the community was becoming more diverse and that kind of thing. And I give a lot of credit to Mayor Dirksen for breaking that. And it was carried on by Mayor Cook, Mayor Snyder, and that kind of communication and working with other groups and working with other municipalities and working with with groups that are so vital to the character that Tigard is will be continued with hopefully Mayor Lube. And so I just think that is something that not only that, but also having after 60 years a female. And so I think that's really great. But I'm also here in a very, very important role because I'm here to ask you for money. And the one thing about campaigning, and whether it's the city of Tigard, whether it's governor, or whether it's a house seat, is that it gets expensive because you do need to communicate with all people, and that usually is done by either through mail, or you have pieces that you drop off at people's front doors when you're canvassing and all that kind of thing. And so it's very, very important that that we start raising money to be able to pay for these sort of things. So what I'm going to ask you guys for today, and you can also pass it on to your friends and neighbors, is to donate to Heidi's campaign. If you have never can't donated to a campaign before, you can. If you have a single tax filing, you can file, you give $50 and you can run that off as a tax credit. If you file your state taxes as a couple, then you can go through and get $100 tax credit. And so I always call it kind of money in and money out, but it's something that is very important. And if you look on the link, on the chat link, there is a link to Heidi's campaign. And so I would hope that you all either keep this or write it down, and it's and we can get out to people. So do I need to repeat it, or are you guys writing it down? It's in the chat. Or you can go there right now and donate money. In fact, that's what we're going to do. In fact, what I'm going to do is when I get finished yapping, I'm actually going to get on and give her $300. And I'm hoping that other people will do that. So as we're talking today, is there anybody else that would like to donate? Would you like to raise your hand and whatever? Okay, Karen Emerson, would you like to donate some money? Thank you very much. You can get on the website, and it's actually secure whatever Heidi, you'll see it. You'll be able to see it. Anybody else want to donate some money? More than $300. Representative Neron, thank you very much. A graduate of Tigard High School. Veronica Williams, our youth counselor on the, did you have your hand up? Our youth counselor on the city council.
I would love to donate money. However, I have to check with my parents first. So when they come home, I'll do it.
Very, very good. I like that. Because when you did that, I was going to say, make sure you check this out with your parents first. So anyway, so we have a case to be Liz Newton that's going to donate some money. Anybody else? I'm changing screens so people can raise their hand. Emily, is your son raising his hand? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the donation. And I was going to say, can he sign the check? But anyway, and Lisa, thank you so very much for donating. We appreciate that very, very much. And Anthony, thank you so much.
Carol,
And,
Carol Greeno.
Pardon?
Carol
and
Greeno.
Carol Greeno. We've got others. I'm trying to keep hands up and so on, but it looks like almost just about everybody has donated some money. So if you get on the chat and look at what the website is, you can go straight in there and donate to her campaign, because even an area as compact as Tigard, I mean, I ran thin campaigns and I had to earn $25,000 minimum. And so it's the idea of really getting out there so we can also get publications out to the folks, we can get mailers, and we get people going to your doors. Not only that, but if people want to volunteer for the campaign, again, she's got a website, so go through and volunteer to knock on doors, because that's always so very, very important. But this is an important election because I think it's going to be a monumental one. You want a person that can be able to deal with many of the important things of a city, like the budget, which is huge, and then also go through and be able to contact and be in contact with lots of other groups. And Heidi is the candidate to do that. And it would also be nice to have a woman. So anyway, with that, you all have her website to donate money, and I'm going to get off when we get off the call. That's the first thing I'm going to do. So thank you all so very much. We appreciate it. And I will turn it back to Mr. Bowman.
All right, please join me in thanking former Representative Doherty for her kind words supporting
Thank
Heidi.
you. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to a close for this evening. We promised we would be short and to the point, and I think we succeeded in doing that. Please do donate if you can. If you donate $101 or more, you get to publicly show your support of Heidi.
Mhm.
So that's how much I'm going to donate. And I hope you all will join me in doing that. Fundraising is the worst part of running for office. I hate it. I'm sure Heidi hates it. So getting support from folks who show up to these meetings, however much you can afford, means a great deal, and it will help Heidi win this election. So with that, Heidi, any closing words of thanks before we break out?
I just want to say I'm overwhelmed with the support, and just looking across this room and seeing everybody that's here, it just warms my heart in a way, people in all areas of my life, and I just can't thank you enough for your support. And Elizabeth wants to say goodbye to everybody too.
Bye, Elizabeth.
All right, everyone, say goodbye to Elizabeth, and thank you so much for supporting Heidi. Let's go win this thing. See you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much. Bye-bye, you guys.